It was time for a change of direction. In 1990, Metallica had a meeting with well-known producer Bob Rock, who had worked on successful albums by Motley Crue and The Cult. Rock told Metallica that in his opinion, they had never captured on record the intensity of their live shows. After some discussion, Lars and James decided to bring him on board for the next record. It was a decision that would shape their entire career.
Rod Smallwood, Iron Maiden's manager, once I think summed up very shrewdly what happens with big metal bands. Judas Priest was Screaming for Vengeance, Iron Maiden around the time of Peace of Mind, Pantera when they did Vulgar Display of Power, all had the capacity to step into the big league commercially by accepting what you had to do to step up, i.e. slightly smooth your sound out, make slightly shorter songs with obvious melodies. None of those three either were prepared to do it or could do it, therefore they never stepped into the really big time with the big sales. Metallica did. Metallica made the step from Master and Puppets and And Justice for All, where they're hovering around 800,000 sales in America, to the Black Album, which goes beyond 10 million.
Released in August 1991, the Black Album, as it quickly became known, was an international hit, going on to sell over 15 million copies. Its secret was its radio-friendly songs and Bob Rock's heavy, clean production.
Commercial songs, because there were songs with melodies, albeit still driven by guitar. They also made a choice of working with a producer who was used to working on those sort of songs. Bob Rock, who'd worked with Aerosmith, he'd worked with Bon Jovi, he'd worked with a lot of the big commercial bands, Motley Crue. Therefore, he was a man who understood how to bring out the best in songs. That's what Metallica wanted.
Metallica spent a year with Bob Rock recording the Black Album. And looking back on that, you sort of understand why. Because it sounds so different from anything they'd done before. For starters, there was a huge bass track. He'd brought Jason's bass up, to the point where I think Jason was secretly quite pleased after the fiasco of the previous album.
Bob Rock did a great production job on it, and there's just some really good songs. I mean, that was probably the strength. You know, people like talk about all the brutal heaviness of Kill 'Em All. What happened was Metallica got better and better in their songs. I mean, you listen to Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets; those are just really, really good songs. And the Black Album, again, really good songs.
Metallica had deliberately avoided the over-complex structures of the songs on previous albums and stripped everything down to its basic components. The critics loved it, although some old-school fans mourned the lack of the speedy thrash metal elements that had made albums such as Kill 'Em All and Master of Puppets so exciting.
A lot of people hate the Black Album, even though it was a very successful one. Even myself, I actually like the Black Album. You know, even though I'm embarrassed to say that I'm among my comrades in the thrash metal community that I hang out with. They had just gone so mainstream. It was just ridiculous how mainstream they were. But you know what? Compared to how they are today, they still had their roots in metal, and it was still a heavy metal record.
They always try to evolve and create something new. I mean, just even from Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning, you saw the progression. Ride the Lightning to Master, same thing, you know, into the Black Album. And I think after the Black Album, they kind of got in that comfortable zone.
As the Black Album soared up the charts in dozens of countries around the world, Metallica embarked on a huge tour that lasted 3 years, earning hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue and stamping their identity on the music scene forever. The band were now part of the rock establishment.
The Black Album brought Metallica this whole new fan base. They had MTV exposure. Suddenly they weren't confined to the sort of long-haired social misfits who had snapped up Metallica's albums in the 1980s. Suddenly you had school kids into it, you had housewives into it, you had accountants into it, you had business people all listening to Metallica. And you can draw comparisons with Nirvana's Nevermind album, which came out within a month of the Black Album. In the summer of 1991, you had these albums which brought rock music to the masses.